Hey guys, it's Shana with Corner to Corner. I'm very excited. It's Women's History Month, and we know that women are making a way. And so we want to bring you some of our friends who really are showing us and exemplifying, personifying how women's history is being made every day. Our first guest today is Charlane Oliver, and she is the founder and co-executive director of the Equity Alliance.
It is a statewide organization that I started along with 5 other Black women back in 2016, right after the 2016 presidential election. And it grew out of a lot of frustration that I was seeing and experiencing at the time by way of all of the injustices that happened at the time. At the same time, the Black Lives Matter movement was rising, and that also was something that resonated me and really called me into action. The Equity Alliance is really about ordinary people taking action in our community and solving the problems that are plaguing the Black community. So it's really about how do we give people the tools to be self-determinant, to engage in the civic process, to own their power, and to make systemic change. So a lot of the work that we do looks like championing voting rights, because voting is one of the most powerful tools that we have in our toolbox to really exert our power and achieve equity in our systems. That's why at the crux of what we do is really make sure that people are engaged in the voting process, making sure that they're turning out for elections. But that work happens all year round for us. So we're not just doing our work around election season. We are organizing in our communities 365 days a year, talking about the issues that matter to people and bringing that back to how that affects you in your daily life and how that issue is impacted by policymakers who make those decisions and who are elected by the people. So we're connecting those dots through engagement, through education, through on the ground grassroots organizing, through advocacy, through statewide policymaking.
So the Equity Alliance was founded by 5 Black women, and really the heart of the mission of what you're doing is to make sure that the voices of your community is heard through policy as well as in general elections, voting, and things of that nature. What was the aha moment for you that led you to this work?
For those that don't know, I've worked all my career in the nonprofit industry or in government service. So I've always been amongst marginalized people or served marginalized folks. And up until this aha moment, I had always seen change through the lens of charity, through nonprofits who do the direct service work of making sure our basic needs are met. But it wasn't until Trayvon Martin in 2012, when he was murdered, was the aha moment for me that this light switch turned on that caused me to really question how injustices like Trayvon's murder happens and his killer is not held accountable. And so it got me to really go down this rabbit hole of who is responsible for this? How do we attack these injustices at the root? And so I wanted to now transition to serving people in a charitable role, but now being about justice. The thing that really happened for me was Trayvon was killed 2 days after I had my first son. So it really became real for me, where I now have a son. My most precious prized possession is a sitting duck in America, is someone who is looked at as disposable, as someone who is an endangered species and could be killed himself. So that was a compelling thing for me that said, look, I have to do something because now I am impacted. I always saw things of, I'm helping people, but now how do I attack injustices that are now could happen to me? And that's not to say I haven't always, I've lived in poverty. I've lived a life of being impacted, but it really became real in that moment. And it was a call to action to say, how can I be and do something. What can I do? I can't no longer sit on the couch and look at other activists and other people out there fighting in the streets, speaking up for me. I want to speak up. I want to be out there. I want to be the change.
So you talked about answering the call when you saw that there were injustices or places where you really could lend your time, talents, and treasures. Have there been other women in your circles? And if so, how have they lifted you up as you've gone about doing this work?
There are a few Black women that come to mind that have uplifted me, that have inspired me, that I look to as like, man, they're doing it. Like, I don't have an excuse. And it was about in 2015, I think about Dr. Shana Jackson. She is now the president of Nashville State Community College. She's like one of my mentors. But at the time that she became my mentor, she was on the board of the Williamson County Chamber of Commerce where I worked. And she's the only Black woman on the board of about a 25-member board. Her being the only Black woman on the board of an organization where I am the only Black woman working for this organization, I latched onto that. And I just sought her out and said, will you be my mentor? And at this time, I was thinking about starting the Equity Alliance. And I remember our first meeting, I came to her office and just was like, look, I'm thinking about starting these organizations. At the time, it was the Power of 10 PAC and the Equity Alliance. And I was like, what do you think? I'll never forget what she told me. She was like, look, our gifts make room for us. You may not have all the tools, you may not have all the answers or the blueprint, but our gifts make room for us, and God will order your steps. I'm getting emotional because she was right. I have always remembered those words because I am operating in my gifts. I'm operating in my talents. People see that. People are inspired by that. And God just has a way of opening doors in ways that I could never imagine, could have never imagined at the time. Dr. Jackson was that person that spoke life into me and inspired me to do that. She still to this day, she'll send me random text messages about, man, you got this award. I'm so proud of you. You are just walking in your light. I just want to send you a word of encouragement. Don't forget about your family. Don't forget about balancing and making time for them. Speaking a word of encouragement. So I just want to uplift her. And she's doing her own thing. I've called her in moments where, as a new leader, as a new nonprofit leader, like there's just things about building a business. Like I don't quite know. I don't have the answers, but I know she's done it. And I've called her and just got some advice, and she's always picked up the phone for me. So I just appreciate leaders like that who are accessible, who don't fault you for making mistakes, who always have an encouraging word, don't judge you, and believe in you. And so I just want to uplift Dr. Shana Jackson.
So I love that you told us that story about how she has really uplifted you and how you made that connection at your workplace and really found a mentorship, someone you can call and that sees you clearly for who you are. So how far do you think that Nashville has come when it comes to female leadership and how females can thrive in leadership positions? And how far do you think we have to go?
I think we have quite a ways to go. Nashville touts itself as being a welcoming city, a progressive city, but I think we talk a good game, but do we actually put that into practice? We unfortunately don't have enough leaders to look to in terms of that. So I think Nashville does an okay job, but I think we need to expand our horizons in what it means to believe and invest in Black leadership, Black women's leadership. I think about our Metro Council, and we have a pretty diverse Metro Council. We have about half of our council is made up of women. I think about some of our critical institutions in media, in business, in nonprofit leadership. And we have our fair share of women, definitely. But where we have a ways to go is believing in investing in people of color as leaders and people of color in decision making positions of power. Dr. Sean Joseph was our former superintendent. He was a male, and he got a lot of flack for making headway into our public school systems. But now we have a Black woman at the helm, Dr. Adrienne Battle, and she's doing a phenomenal job. But, if you let the headlines tell it, there is this frustration with her leadership and criticism. So I think, it's a balance. We're making progress. We have our fair share of representation in terms of women's leadership, but we need to invest in women of color as well.
So Charlane, tell us a project that you're working on that you're really excited about.
I am excited about our new Liberty Leaders Collective program that we are launching this year. It is going to be a cohort-style leadership training program for political newcomers. I was not someone who was trained in political activism. I don't necessarily have mentors who mentored me. I wasn't groomed from college to get an internship to go work for said congressman or said senator. These are always the traditional pathways into politics. But as me and Tequila, we sort of bust down the front door and said, look, y'all gonna accept us and get it how you get it, right? We want that for other people. We want the same exposure that we have gained and learned since starting the Equity Alliance. We want that for other people. If we're going to have systemic change in this state, if we're going to attack some of the voter suppression problems that exist in Tennessee, some of the inequities that exist in healthcare, in education, in economics that are right here in Tennessee, then we have to invest in new leaders. We have to invest in the infrastructure it takes to make that change. One of the things you talked about, you asked me about women's leadership and is Nashville doing a good job? Well, we aren't doing a good job at succession planning. We aren't doing a good job at intergenerational mentorship. We're not doing a good job of passing the torch to the next generation. And what we want to do through this Liberty Leaders Collective is expose new people, untraditional talent to the world of politics and how you can make a career in this space, lead in this space, and make change in this space. Through the Liberty Leaders Collective, we're going to focus on civic education 101. We're going to talk about movement building. We're going to discuss what it's like to lead through serving on boards and commissions, running for office, working on a political campaign, working for an elected official as a policy analyst or a legislative aide, any of those career pathways, or being the next Charlane or Tequila and running your own organization. We have to invest in the infrastructure, and the infrastructure means we have to have more people doing this work if we're going to make more change. We are looking to train over 700 people in the next 3 years to go through this program, and I'm excited about that it's not just going to be me and Tequila out here. We can sort of cultivate and till the soil, if you will, of the foundation of this work in investing in new leaders. It's something we've always wanted to do, but didn't have the investment until now, until we got a major grant. And definitely it's not all the funding that is going to sustain it, but it's going to get us started. And that's the biggest thing about making change, about doing this work, is just getting started and going about it, even if you don't have the end goal in mind, even if you don't know what the end is going to look like. Getting started and the rest will follow. That's what faith is about too. That's about having faith and believing, but not necessarily having the bigger picture, because God knows the plan, even if you don't.
That's a big deal. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be a game changer for sure.
So you told us so much about how really running this organization is you also learning how to run your own business. So what advice would you have for female entrepreneurs who are just entering the academy powered by Corner to Corner?
I would say, you're probably in this space of what's next. Where do I start? I have all this knowledge now. How do I put it into practice? And we never eat an elephant in one bite. It's one bite at a time. And I would say, make that plan, make your 1 year plan, make your 3 year plan, and start putting it into bite-sized pieces. What needs to happen first in order to achieve X in 3 years, and start writing that down. I think that the hardest thing to do is just getting started, because fear will paralyze us. There are things where I'm just like, okay, what's next for the Equity Alliance? I don't know. I don't know what our 2021 plan is, but I'm gonna figure it out. And so it's just about getting started, but also writing down the vision and making it plain. Write it down, because there's something about the power of the tongue and speaking life into your own situation. And you may not have all the funding, you may not have all the business capital just yet, but write it down and start. That's the biggest thing I could say. And believe in yourself, because there's gonna be a lot of like naysayers. Family's gonna be like, girl, what idea is that? Like, there's someone already out here doing it. But are they doing it the way you want to do it? Are they doing it the way you believe it can be done? Listen, I'm talking to myself, preaching to myself as I'm talking to you, because I've had naysayers. I have people who don't believe in the Equity Alliance. They don't think our methods work, but clearly you have a niche audience. You can't save everybody. I can't save everybody out here. That's what I do have to be real about. But you have a niche audience that you're trying to reach, and understand your audience. That's the other thing, is understand who you're talking to. You can't sell everybody on your idea, but who are those people that you're trying to reach, who will invest in it and who will buy it? Putting in those extra hours to build your business is going to make all the difference. That work ethic, that's what sets us apart from the fake and phony folks out here talking about making money, but actually, are they doing it? Are you going to invest in your business by spending those extra hours on a Saturday, making spreadsheets, making your break even calculations, and all of those things? So it's that extra mile that is going to take you to the extra mile.
Thank you so much. Like, really, with this conversation, I have learned that women are doing a great job with really creating their own path. But what we need to do is help forge a path and bring others into the conversation. And we honor the work that the Equity Alliance is doing, bringing other women, other Black leaders into the conversation. And so if people are interested in the work that you're doing, how can they connect with you?
Follow me on Twitter. I think that's probably the best place. My handle is at Charlane O, and Charlane is spelled CHARLANE O. But you can follow the Equity Alliance. Our social media is always popping every single day. So you can follow us on Facebook at the Equity Alliance, on Instagram at the Equity Alliance, and Twitter at Equity Alliance 1. And you can also support us and follow us and donate at theequityalliance.org.
All right, guys. So you have all of their contact information. Be sure to tell them that Corner to Corner sent you. And we look forward to seeing how you and the other women that you're working with are making history every day.
The Equity Alliance unapologetically builds independent Black political power. We educate, we engage, and we mobilize Black people to take civic action, and we keep government in check. I think one of the pieces of advice that I would give women entrepreneurs is, because as women, we tend to second guess ourselves. We have imposter syndrome. We deal with self-doubt, because all our lives we're told that, there's other folks that there's this social hierarchy where we're at the bottom as women, and we live in a patriarchal world, unfortunately, and women just aren't supposed to run their own businesses and be in leadership roles. So we have to, one, don't do that negative self-talk that we do, or I'm not this, I'm not that, and compare ourselves. And we also have to tune out the noise. There's going to be noise on social media. There's going to be noise, from our families, that we're taking all this in, but tune out that noise and listen to your inner voice. Listen to yourself and believe into yourself.